So, I guess they were pretty.
All right, everybody. You want to go on camera?
No.
It was funny during, because I've been recording for a while, but during COVID, I had people all over the world watching my class. Well, because people are, you know, obviously were just energized to learn. They must have been sitting there bored out of their skull and started watching. And I had people send me messages, relatively positive. And all right, so I recorded. So if you go on Jay Partridge's YouTube page, I usually record third period. It's kind of the middle, you know, one of my 4 AP US history classes. You know, if I forget to hit record, I'll record fourth period. But if you miss a day, it's always up there. And so that's always there. And it really does come in handy, especially to go back, you know, hey, you might have missed 2 days or you're sick and you're not sure what we talk about in class. And I'm telling you, I mean, you can get some of this stuff we do in class elsewhere, but my stuff does not come from, what I talk about in class does not come from one source. The textbook is a supplement. And I have from numerous sources that I've, forgot from which ones. They just accumulate all this stuff. And so that's what will be on the test. And so I don't have like one little thing written down or what I do. In fact, I don't have notes. I have names and key. And so, you can't just come to me and say, I want notes. And I do PowerPoint, but I just put 1 or 2 words on and you got to add. I do PowerPoint so I can show wonderful maps. Hey, that's me. Why is that on there? You see that? I'm there.
Oh, you meant something.
That's really kind of creepy. All right. So it's actually what you get is in a little box will be the front of the a little box will be the front of the classroom, and then whatever I post will be on the screen. You've had that before. It's not that. And if I do on the board, I just have to point the camera to the board, and I'm going to read it, but I'll at least point to the camera. Oh, by the way, it's Friday. I know Friday's kind of depressing, but you got a 3-day weekend and it'll be over like that. You'll be right back here. See, think of it that way, just like summer. And you'll notice the big flamingo. And I had thousands of flamingo things at the end of the year last year. Because do we know what day it is today? It's Flamingo Friday, everybody. You want to see it? Absolutely. Flamingo Friday. Look at that. Now, I know you don't get the whole grandeur of this, but look at it with the lights off. Yes. Did I just blow your mind? Absolutely. Think of another class that has this. All right, let's get to work. If you look at this document, the fornication laws, there's a few things happening there, but just really quickly. When you look at this, there are a couple things you have to get. So, I don't know why the order got kind of messed up, but the first one, the 1661 law. So look at this third paragraph. To restrain the filthy sin of fornication. So this was such an issue. So if you look at that document, and it talks about fine to the parish, to the county, so that's to the local county government. And a servant is an indentured servant. Now, an indentured servant is a slave who got a contract. Their contract said, usually it's 7 years, you get passage over, you're a slave for 7 years. I mean, literally, a slave. And this was really common. This was as common, this goes back to ancient Sumeria. You were talking back 5000 BC in Mesopotamia, today's Iraq. This was a common thing. You have a debt, pay back the debt by being a slave. This happened all the time, and everybody knew it. It was horrible, but that shows you how bad their life was. It was so miserable. I was willing, if I'm willing to become a slave for 7 years so I can get passage over maybe a tiny little piece of land, first I have to tell you how just awful life must have been. That you're willing to become a slave. But it also means that there are all these slaves there. Some are English and they get a contract. Some are American Indians who don't have a contract, but they're slaves. Some are European descent out of slaves. Some are more Asian descent. And more from Africa are slaves. Now, slavery was not permanent. Everyone got what I said? And it wasn't clear how long you would be a slave. There'd be a lot of time anybody's a slave, even if they're not indentured servants, they might be a slave for like 20 years and they'll be given their freedom. And by no means was there any set rule about children being slaves. We'll talk. Yes, either there or there.
Thank you.
Not a big deal. Okay. And we'll talk about what we did earlier, so. All right. So has everyone got that? That was the issue about it. So when you read that, you have these wealthy landowners coming over to Virginia. I'm sorry, relatively wealthy people. They have land. They don't have people to work the land. The god-awful job of tobacco cultivation. And so, slaves. That's how they, and slaves aren't free, but they don't have to pay a wage, and they don't have rights, and they can control them. But there's filthiness of fornication, meaning slaves are having children. They could be servants, they could be slaves. Who's the father? Their owners. Does everyone catch what's happening? It's their owners. So that's what's going on. If the owner has a child with a slave, is that child now free? Is that child getting an inheritance? Does everyone catch what I'm talking about? And one more thing. Who's making the laws? The slaves? Who's making the laws? The owners. And they're obviously making these laws to be fair and equal to all people, correct?
To themselves.
So does everyone catch this when you read this? By the way, this is not a love affair. These are not two people in love having a relationship. What is it? That's right. That's right. So does everyone catch what happened? Oh, by the way, do the owners want to stop doing this? So that's what you got to think about. Now, that will be your homework to read this, okay? I went through a few things in your notes, but I want you to think about that when you read this. And I'd go through a little background. By the way, you notice what we just did there? I know we took a few minutes to talk about that. That's context. I gave you context, background material. Don't forget what I just did there? Whenever you read something, I know for this class, you try, take a couple seconds and think about the background. Because then when you read it, it makes more sense. It takes just a couple of seconds, really. In fact, hopefully you get to the point where you just don't even think about it. You just, okay, okay, it's just kind of, because then you can plug it in. If you just read this and think, okay, I got words in front of me, words. Oh, these are words. Don't make a lot of sense. Take a few minutes and get that context. Now, I'm not saying you have to know everything I just told you, but as the year goes by, that gets a lot easier. A lot easier. And if you can get where you don't even think about it, you just read it and you automatically think in context, things become, okay, if you have to understand it for a test, great. It makes it easier. But also makes it more interesting. Interesting is better than boring. Okay, so let's take your notes out. This is the first unit. The unit is called Independence. And our first unit test, which will be, and I'll give you a couple examples of this, but it's going to be multiple choice and short essays. We'll have to write on this test. The first part of independence is going to be British colonial society. And these are things that you did in your notes. A couple things in the beginning, I'll just kind of review, and then it's all going to be stuff. You're moving on for me. And so this will be the first unit, first part of the unit test. So these are the kind of things you miss. So on Monday, I'm giving you Monday off, I forgot. But Tuesday, I pick up and just go from right where I left off, and I just go. That's what I do in this class. All right. Oh, by the way, you like the map? Does it make sense to anybody? Anyone know what that's at? I mean, you can guess. Because in big letters it says Virginia. They were good map makers. They had to be. You think about like doing it by boat and then using geometry to figure out distances. But it isn't oriented to the north. So here's the Chesapeake Bay. That's north, that's west, that's east, that's south. And so you take, kind of turn it over. That's where Jamestown was right here. For example, Washington, D.C. be right about there. This is Maryland. Yeah, I think that's kind of a cool map. And you can really see how they drew it. That's a Pohava. And they drew them, especially in the 17th century. They're always very fit and very muscular. You remember what I told you? They were kind of in awe of them. And so let's get just very quickly a couple things really quick. Jumping right to yeah, we know about, Spain came first, Columbus 1492, globalization happened after that, but Spain is going to claim all the way from here, all the way down to Tierra del Fuego. All is going to be New Spain, this massive colony. And yes, they would have slavery. They did some of the similar slave practices that happened in the United States, but it still was not clear about slaves, whether or not their children would be slaves or not. But I should add, slaves on these horrific sugar plantations, most of them didn't make it past 6 months. So they didn't have the same thing, that similar issue, which is such a horrible way to put it. I'm almost like I'm minimizing it. But same thing for the Portuguese colony of Brazil. And so, we got New Spain, and we already know the Columbian Exchange, right? And part of the reason I put this up is that this picture just makes me laugh. So it shows all the big, squash and pumpkins, turkeys, peanuts, potatoes, tomatoes, maize, corn, pineapple, tobacco, all these coming here to the old world. And then here, bananas, sugar cane. Boy, the sugar cane worked well here. Peaches, turnips, etc. But I love this. Oh, and all the livestock, which led to the diseases. Skull and crossbone. Let's just make the diseases skull and crossbone. I know, that one just kind of makes me laugh. The only major disease that went the other way was syphilis. And that actually ravaged Europe. Have you heard of Henry VIII? King of England, one of the more famous kings of England. He probably died of syphilis. But as horrific as that disease was, it's nothing like what's going to happen when typhus or smallpox or just the flu. Common cold then is not the same as the common cold today. The common cold today that almost everyone gets in the world is from the Russian flu from 1890, which was a coronavirus. Just happened. So probably going to be something very similar down the road. But that's a Columbian Exchange. But the big thing was, this was worldwide. Columbus came and triggered globalization all over the world. Like, there is soon going to be a growing trade of silver being traded across the Pacific to China. Potazi was a silver mine right here in Peru. Just a mine, a mountain of silver. And silver is worth about 1/20th of gold. I'll talk about how that works down the road. But that was all flowing to China for silk or tea or whatever it might be. But just all overnight, worldwide trade. And this triggered a big deal because the amount of gold in the world coming in, gold and silver, coming in from New Spain, doubled the amount of gold. What happens to prices if the amount of gold and silver go up? Yeah, inflation. Prices begin to go up because Spain could basically outbid everybody. In a marketplace, if two people come in to buy one product, Spain will win. And so that means prices go up for everybody. And it's a similar thing that happens in the market today, supply and demand. When there was massive supply shortages during COVID, you guys probably remember this, at least, prices went up all over the world, dramatically. The United States actually did much better than most places, but still went up a lot here. Well, Prices go up. Oh, what is it called then when prices go up? Oh, almost forgot. We jumped the gun. What happens to the value of money if there's inflation?
It goes down.
Goes down. Everyone got that? Goes down. Doesn't buy as much. Is that good for some people?
For some people.
Some people it's really good. If you have debts, you pay back in dollars of lower value. That's good. If you loan the money, that's bad. If you're wealthy, you have money sitting, someplace, and the value of money goes down, haven't you lost money? Inflation could be bad. And prices going up if you're a consumer could be bad, but also that means that potentially wages are going up, profits are going up. Expectation of higher prices means that people will think, oh, I'm going to jump into this market. What happens if the value of money goes up? What do we call that? Someone said. I heard inflation. Or did you say deflation? Yeah, deflation. What happens to prices if the value of money goes up?
Prices go up as well.
Yeah. Huh?
Prices go up as well.
If the value of money goes up, the prices go up. Because your money can buy more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's one of those weird things. Yeah, value of money goes up. You think, oh, I got more money. Is that good? We don't want prices to go down overall. If prices go down overall, that means you're in a depression. Now, you think, oh God, he's talking money supply. What the heck is he talking about? It's just like I mentioned debt. Debt and money supply, wars are fought over this. Empires are made. Worlds are changed by money supply. It's so important. And people talk about generals and armies. A lot of times it's just debt and money supply. Speaking of money supply, what decides, at least has the most impact on inflation, deflation, the money supply in the United States right now? Anyone know? What body does that? Yes.
The government?
What part of the government? Yeah.
The Federal Reserve.
The Federal Reserve. Now, it shows you the size of the American economy, because the Federal Reserve, when it makes a decision on that, it affects the rest of the world. Even though the yuan, Chinese currency, and the euro are pretty close, the American currencies, affects everybody. Federal Reserve raises or lowers interest rates. Anyone know what the Federal Reserve? If you look on a dollar bill, it says Federal Reserve note. That's power. By the way, they're probably going to lower interest rates, which means they want inflation. They now prices are dropping so fast that they're worried they're worried about inflation has slowed so much they're worried about prices dropping. So they're going to cut interest rates probably next month, and it's a big deal. They're worried of depression, a recession, right now. But back to this. This is a big deal. Globalization. Oh, I should have. Do you notice what I just did there? So I'm giving you context, but there's something else. I'm talking about 1600s, 15 and 1600s. You notice how it directly relates to today? It's different, obviously, but the same things happen time after time, and I will do this constantly. Hey, what happens today? All right, so eventually these are going to be the empires. You need this on the map so you know. New Spain, France. The Dutch were one of the first ones to really get the power of trade and the money supply. The Bank of Amsterdam, what they did in the 17th century, we still copy today. Kind of amazing. The Bank of England will copy, the United States will copy, hit and miss copy until the 20th century. English, France. We'll come back to this. And you notice I made these empires. They didn't bother to ask the people that were living in these areas. So let's get to Virginia. This was the second major attempt. Okay, we basically know this, right? Jamestown, the first attempt at colony. The London Company of Virginia was a joint stock company. A joint stock company is a precursor to what kind of company today? What do you call a company where people invest and they buy stock under the owners? That means the risk is spread out amongst the investors. Big deal. Yeah, that's corporation. And it's a legal entity created by states. And so it's not quite the corporation today. You know what a corporation is today, which is worldwide? Before you leave, you have to tell me what country the first corporation was started. It's so obvious, it's Belgium. All right, on that happy note, make sure you have the rest of the fornication laws. I'll pick up right here. See, and I recorded this. You can go back home and watch this again and think, I was there. I was there. Yeah, you do. And then just read this. Oh, thank you very much. And the concert was good.
The concert was good. She like put it in the air. It was great.
Literally? No one else just threw? And was it packed?
It was. There's like 20,000 people.
Montana, that's a big deal. Cool.
I'm not gonna be here Tuesday and
Like
Wednesday
this.
next week.
Golf. Yep. That's the problem with golf. Because Tuesday and Wednesday? Yep. So you have from chapter 3. Good one, Scott. Yeah. You're gonna make a read chapter 3 and.
Okay.
I think it's America, yeah.
Yeah.
Just pick up that at the library.
None of your business.
Okay, so I do a little reading quiz, that's what we have next week.
Carry also in backpack.
Huh? No, you pick the last three one.
Yesterday, so I have like an extension on the thing. I like did it, but it's kind of like sloppy. I kind of.
Let me look at it outside, I'm sure it'll be fine.
I'm sorry.
Everything okay? Yeah. All right, stuff happens. We did that little quiz, then we can do it. Now let's not do that because I got nothing on that. I mean, it's really basic. And so I'll let you on. You got the quiz.
I have like 3
You just didn't have this. Stuff happens. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. It's not a big deal.
This is gonna be a fun learning experience.
Hey, we have a test today. You're in. You moved.
Yeah, I had to.
You're starting to confuse me.
Sorry, I had
Yeah, I moved the table there, but you got. You want to sit at the table?
Yeah.
All right.
I changed to APUSH. So.
Oh, okay. Cool. Okay, I gotta leave one desk in front open, so I'm leaving this one open. Don't try. Don't even try it. All right. No, it's just something like we can turn stuff in. I'll look at one desk in front. All right, find your seat, and I'm back. Remember, we're gonna pick a seat. If you're sitting back, remember, I'll move you up, so be strategic. Give me a couple minutes, but. Oh, we're still recording. I was recording last period. Everyone say goodbye to the camera. Boy, that's. I figured you guys would be excited. So.
Don't have a rest of my summer. Yeah. The book I was reading.
I'm choosing to join lunch so I can get it after school.
I have silence. What industry?
I'll be in
Mr. Parker?
Give me a sec.
I have, so here I have my independent for 18. First,